Hi, our guest today is Tarik Miranda, who's running for school committee in the April 2nd Milford annual town election. Welcome.
Kevin, thanks for having me on your show.
Good. You ran last year. You're running again this year.
Yeah, and last year was a big learning process, learning curve.
You had about, what, 6 candidates last year?
6 candidates last year for 3 seats. Now I have 6 candidates this year for 2 seats.
My math may be wrong, but I think that lowers your odds.
It absolutely does.
So why should people vote for you?
People should vote for me because I'm recently graduated. I know the school system in and out. I have a good relationship with administration and teachers K through 12. So I want to be able to leverage that.
You have family in the school system right now?
I do have one sister. My brother, who is a sophomore, moved to Miami, so he's for dance. So it's just my sister now in the school system.
But having been a recent grad, I know you're just out of college, you're working. You're only, what, 4 years separated from the school system, basically, 4.5.
Yeah, 4.5 years out.
And a sister in it, so.
Right, and my sister's in it, and I love it. I love the town. Milford Public Schools taught me everything I needed to know, and I just want to give back. You
got into a pretty decent college from there?
Yeah, I went to Wentworth Institute of Technology.
And you got a pretty good job.
Yeah, I'm working at MIT now, so life is good.
Life is good, and the Milford school system got you there.
And exactly, it was building blocks.
So you must believe the school has a lot of good to offer.
I do. Yeah.
Unlike some candidates who believe only it has bad to offer.
Well, it offers good, and there's always bad with the good. There's nothing we can do to completely get rid of all bad.
Okay. You got some experience running townwide last year. I think you came in 4th.
I can't remember now. It was 5th. I was ahead of Glenn White.
Okay.
So it went Megan, Sarah, Chris. I don't remember the order.
Well, the point was.
Yeah.
The point was, you got your feet wet. You did pretty well, and I always admire personally the person who comes back the second year. Most people try, they lose, you never hear from them again.
Right.
Here you are back again. So the answer is why? Well,
I want to do it. I want to get into public service. I might not be a Brian Murray or a governor or a Ryan Fatman, but I want to at least serve the town that I've grown up with and owe so much to.
You have been on the personnel board for close to a year.
Yes, I've been on the personnel board for just about close enough to a year.
Have you learned anything there that you think you could transfer to the school committee?
Budgeting, because we look at the town's Article 2 pay structure.
Right.
So maybe I'm hoping, if elected, to leverage what I've learned there.
Okay. Have you learned how to evaluate an employee, look at the job descriptions,
yes,
things the personnel board does?
Right now, we're currently going through all the job descriptions in town to see what we can change. A lot of them are outdated or they're not correct, so we're comparing to other towns, and it's a long process that we're working to fix.
Speaking of comparing to other towns, there's someone in town is sending out lots of emails comparing Milford to lots of other towns.
Yes.
And I kind of take issue with some of the towns he's comparing to, especially in his school choice emails, because he's comparing Milford to schools that I don't think are comparable to Milford. I don't think the population of Milford compares to the population of Holliston or Oakdale.
No, it doesn't.
Nor does the background of the kids in the school. I think it compares more to a Framingham or even some schools close to the Boston area.
Yeah.
And I think those would be fair comparisons, and Milford would do very well against them. What do you think are the challenges facing the school system?
Honestly, the one big challenge is we have a huge ESL population in town. I think it's 28, 30%. That's a third of the school system. So probably it's a little 1,300 kids.
Right.
That's all.
I mean,
13,
the
1,400 kids.
superintendent says more than 50% of the population needs attention, and he defines that as special ed, English language learner, economically disadvantaged, or social and emotional needs.
Right.
So that's a high percentage in a school system.
It's more than half. That's insane.
I'll also point out in the school system I grew up in, we were probably all considered economically disadvantaged and social and emotionally challenged. It was an inner city school.
Yeah.
We didn't think of ourselves that way. We just thought of ourselves as going to
Kids.
school.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that kind of population?
Oh, that's when you have to really reinforce core values. You have to try to get parents involved, because I truly believe a lot of it starts at home. And
I agree with you.
what you learn at home will carry on into your day. And so I think your parents have a big job to do. It shouldn't be the teachers' jobs to educate and teach respect and responsibility.
And I also think if there's a culture of the parents supporting learning and people, the kids and themselves learning, the student will tend to learn better.
So my parents, I swear from the day I was born, they were always saying, you're gonna go to school, you're gonna get education, you're gonna go to college, or you're gonna learn a trade in the United, and that's how you make your way in America.
Did your parents grow up with mine?
I don't know. And
I mean, on the Rudden side, just so you know, I'm like the 5th or 6th generation. On my mother's side, I'm only, she was the first person born in America in her side of the family.
so I was the first born in the U.S. on my side of the family.
So, we got what she got. Well, she also grew up in the Depression, and in New York City, depending on what your grades were, sort of the MCAS of the day,
Right.
you got a free scholarship to City College in New York. She couldn't go because she couldn't afford the books. And I mean, that was drilled into my sisters and my head
Right.
from birth, that you're going to get the chance I didn't get.
Yeah.
You're going to college.
So none of my parents went to college.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely a motivator for them to make sure we get that opportunity, we do well enough to be able to do that and excel in life.
What are some of the other challenges? And the other question I want to ask you is, you're one of what, 6 members, 7 members? 7?
On what?
School committee?
Oh, I would be one of 7, yes.
Okay. How does one of 7 make a change?
Right, because you need 4. See, that's when...
You know your math. You need 2 on selectmen, 4 on school committee.
Exactly.
To do what you want. So, but
How do you get it done?
How would you make changes you think are necessary as one member? How are you going to get those 3 people with you?
I would tell them. I know, I mean, easier said than done, but I would explain to them how you can truly help these economically disadvantaged kids, that whole big range that McIntyre was talking about, because I was there. So I know what helps, I know what doesn't help, and I want to roll that into the school system. And a lot of us would just be reinforcement. Like if you're struggling in English, then you need an extra English class. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You have to sacrifice your fun time in your elective class to reinforce English or math. And I think it's important, because that's what's going to help you excel. Not as much as I love gym class isn't really going to help you excel as much as math, science, reading, right? All of that will. So I think you have to give some and take some here.
Well, looking back, I can tell you candidly, I would have loved to get rid of my weekly phys ed class and get an elective. But we didn't have it back then, unlike today, but that's life.
Right. I think that'll really help these kids who need that extra class, and we're not giving them that extra class. I think that's something everyone can get behind.
Okay. Who works for who? Does the school committee work for the superintendent, or does he work for the school committee?
Well, the superintendent is hired by the school committee, so he works for them.
Do you think the current committee understands that?
No, I would say they don't understand that. I like Kevin. I like Kevin.
He has a good reputation, but
Right.
the one thing I hear from every
I hear
single
that-
adult
I
I
hear
talk
that
to in
too.
Milford is, those guys think they work for him,
Right. And I've
but
heard
they're
that
his
too.
boss.
Exactly. And I think they need to maybe impose their will because that's why they're there.
Hold him accountable.
Hold him accountable, and he has to hold administration accountable, and down the line it goes.
Okay. So what do you think of these ratings that say, Milford's not where it should be in the rankings of the best schools in the state, or the high school's a 3 and it should be a 1?
Well, the state got rid of that ranking last year, so there's
Okay.
no 1, 2. The ranking was 1 to 5. There's no.
Right.
That's not there anymore. But according to Niche, we're right outside the top third. I think they rank us 125th in the state, but all our neighboring towns are in the top 50.
Okay, but is being ranked in the 120s, 130s so bad when there are 351 cities and towns? You're in the top third.
Right, but
Do you want to be number 1?
that's the goal. The goal is to be number 1, if not number 1, as close as you possibly can. And
But you're not a Wellesley or a Weston. You're Milford.
right, but if we give the money to the school system, we give them a lot of money,
Right.
and I believe we can be doing better, and I believe they're not using money as efficiently as they possibly could.
So you're not a big proponent of let's give them another 5 million and the problem will go away.
No, no, no. If you're gonna ask for 5 million, I want a plan and I want something measurable to go against that plan.
And I would want someone accountable if the plan's not met.
Well, that's the superintendent or the the superintendent and the school committee should
Well,
be
you're the
accountable.
elected guy, so you're actually accountable before he is,
Right, right.
because people every 3 years can toss you out.
But every day I could toss him out,
Not unless you have
Oh.
enough votes.
of course.
But you don't want to toss him out.
I want to keep him out. I don't mind McIntyre. I like him as a person. And maybe he just needs a reminder that he works for the school committee and the schools. And that maybe just
Yeah.
that'll start leading us in the right direction.
I see two types of candidates. We have why don't we talk about all the good going on in Milford candidate? Things are not bad. There's so many good things going on there.
Mhm.
And then we have it's atrocious, we got to fix a candidate. Are you in either of those, or are you a blend of the two of them?
I'd say I'm a blend. I'll advertise that to anyone. I will tell you what I think is good and what I think is bad. And I have no problem doing that with anyone, one-on-one, in public, on TV right now.
Right. So let's say you get elected. You really only have a couple of roles under state law. You talked about one of them as hiring and reviewing the superintendent, setting policy, the budget. Ed reform basically gave all the main hiring and firing to the superintendent. So you got those three, the big ones. What happens then when you get inundated with, my kid got cut off the sports team, the bus doesn't pick up at my corner? Do you ignore those, or do you know that's part of it? Or do you think that's part of the job?
No, I know that's part of the job. I've heard from all those current school committee members and previous school committee members. They've all told me it's a lot of that, as well as setting policy
Right.
and doing the budget.
Okay, as a 4.5, 5-year grad away from the system,
Mhm.
any policies you think need changing?
Any policies? Really, nothing big.
Haven't got into it yet.
I haven't seen anything big really that, while
Okay.
going to school, really irritated me, or I was against. No, or nothing that I really loved. It was just
Okay.
I went to school, I went to class, I learned, and that was it.
Okay. Have you started delving into the budget?
Oh, I have that's what I live on. That's what I spend my spare time on.
Well, you went to Wentworth, you got the technical background to really dive into it.
Right, and I look at it line by line, and I see the funds where it's going, and I don't agree with a lot of new initiatives that they come up with, because every year it's new initiatives, new initiatives, new initiatives. It's more costs, and they say it's going to make things better. All right, that's what they say. But over the past few years that they've been adding these new initiatives, we haven't been getting better. So, but we don't cut them. We keep most of them. So we're still spending money on something that we've acknowledged doesn't work.
Well, isn't that how government works? Have you ever seen a government program go away?
No, but it has to. It has to go away, and I'll push to get rid of these initiatives and we reappropriate the funds somewhere else. Maybe keep the initiative, but change how it's done.
Do you like the, I don't want to call it a push, but the movement towards more vocational type things for the people who aren't college bound? The hospitality.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Now there's one aimed at sort of I think, heavy construction jobs.
They have internships at the hospital and at Imperial.
Right, automotive.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
I think it's a great thing. Because college isn't for everyone.
I mean, I was talking to a 17-year-old in my town last night, junior in high school, saying, what are you thinking of studying? He's in electronics at BVT, does not know what he wants yet. And I was suggesting, well, you know, they need automotive technicians, they need people who understand robotics,
Yeah.
they need people who can take care of senior citizens.
And there's so much you can do with
Right.
a trade. It doesn't limit you.
Right. I think for so long, and I've got 3 kids in their 20s, and I've heard this from all of them, the emphasis was you have to go to college. You have to go to college. And a lot of kids just aren't going to do well in college for whatever reasons.
Right, and it's a big different environment because you're alone most of the time.
Right.
And if you didn't have those time management skills, then you were really gonna suffer.
Or you don't have the people skills to say, I'm going to get along in a new environment.
Right, and you get.
I mean,
and
it's
you're
really
alone.
easy when you're going to school for 12 years with the same group of kids,
Exactly. You
by
know
and
everyone.
large.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden you go somewhere else, and now it's all these new people.
Right, and I'm very outgoing, so I didn't really have that problem
Yeah.
of making friends. I think within the first day, I knew everyone in my building. There was about 400 kids who lived in there. And then the time management thing, I'm always on the go. I'm always doing something. I would go to school, I would go to soccer practice, I would go work at Dairy Queen, and then I'd do homework. Or if I wasn't working, I'd go to school, soccer practice, or volleyball practice, and then homework.
Okay, so now I go to work and I do personnel board and I'm running for school committee.
Basically, yeah. always doing something. I like being busy.
Right.
I can't fathom just sitting on the couch for hours doing nothing. I need to be productive with my time.
Yeah, I'm the same. I actually get bored being bored.
Right,
And
exactly.
I sit there and
Like one movie's enough.
if you ask the ladies at the Milford Town Library, I mean, I usually go in and take out a stack of books once every 2 weeks, and I sit there and I read a book every other day, or if I don't have anything to do,
Yeah.
I get bored. It's like, what do I do?
Right.
But anyway, let's switch gears. It's April 3rd. You got elected. What's the first thing you're going to do at your first school committee meeting?
Go into the budget. Because I think
Because you'll have about a month before town meeting.
exactly. And I think that's the most important thing. I think that might be the most important thing the school committee has to do because they decide where all the funds go. And although it's not a lot of time and you probably have just a handful of meetings before then.
Now, if my government memory is correct, once the school budget is approved, the school department can spend it really any way they want to, no matter what they proposed for it. I believe they have the right to do that.
I'm not so sure. I know they can move money from accounts
To
to
account.
different accounts. So that's
Right.
maybe how it's done.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So how would you feel if they said, well, we need, $1 million to take care of this? You go out to a meeting and they said, well, we really want to shift it to that.
I'd probably say no. I'm completely okay with being the one person.
So you're not
Voting
afraid of a
against it.
6-to-1 vote?
I'm not afraid of the 6-to-1 vote. I actually hope it happens every once in a while. I heard it builds character.
I actually, on committees I'm in my town, I like to play the devil's advocate sometimes and just argue opposite. So people think I'm being difficult. What I'm really doing is making them consider the other point of view before we vote. We usually vote the same way, but somebody's got to raise, well, what if you did it that way?
Right. Of course. I don't think I'd play devil's advocate just to
Not just
to
for the
argue
sake of
debate-
doing
just
it,
for the
but-
sake of doing it. But to maybe get them to see another point of view, absolutely.
Right.
I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I'm also not going to do it for 3 hours. Like that's
No, you make
I'm
your
going to make my point in a few minutes and that's it.
Yeah, okay. So we've got a couple of minutes left. We try not to ask hard questions here of the candidates. We like to
You can ask me a hard one if
Well,
you
no, we
want.
like having discussion. What I'd like to say is let's take a minute and just talk to the voters of Milford. Just tell them why they should vote for you.
I really believe they should vote for me because I know the school system, the ins and the outs. Born and raised in Milford, I understand what it feels like to be the economically disadvantaged, but I also understand how important education is, and I want to be able to help improve the entire school system, not just the economically disadvantaged. I want to help all the kids, the bottom, the middle, the top, because if you push everyone up a level, you help everyone.
Okay. So now I'm going to do the devil's advocate and say, well, one of the knocks that I've heard about you is you're young, you don't have a lot of job experience or life experience. How do you answer that?
Well, it's not a lie. Like, I don't have real corporate job experience, but I've worked since I was 15. I would manage a store at Dairy Queen. Everyone would go in there, would only say, most of the time, only good things. So I have that experience. I know how to communicate, and I feel like I can do the job.
And you pretty much know how the last group of kids 4 years ago coming out of Milford High did, because they're your classmates.
Yeah, most of us are doing well. I have some friends working in the federal courts. I have friends going into law school. I have friends still in school because they took a year or two off because they know what to do.
Okay.
Just anything's possible.
You think it's a knock to say, well, you're young, you shouldn't run?
Absolutely not. I think it's more motivation, more knocking on doors. Just want to prove them wrong.
Okay. You'd like doing that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Nothing would make me happier. Proving everyone wrong and doing a good job.
Okay. So what is the type of experience you bring? You said, I find a hard time looking at you saying you're economically disadvantaged because I know you went to a good college and you have a good job, but I assume you're talking about growing up. There wasn't a lot of money in the house.
Oh no, my parents to this day they still live paycheck to paycheck, so I would definitely consider that economic disadvantage. I wouldn't say I was missing food all the time. I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the extras that a lot of people have.
Right. And see, if I were in your shoes, I'd be arguing, well, I don't have a wife and family to take away my time, so I've got lots of time and energy to devote to school problems.
Right, and I don't have kids in the school system. And a lot of, I don't want to say anything, I don't want to say it, but a lot of people run to help benefit their kids. And you see it.
Well, you could also argue, I wouldn't want to be a kid in the school system if my mom or dad taught there or was on the school committee, candidly, because everybody'd be dumping on me
Right.
privately. But
I just don't think that, I think that's a pro. I'm not in it for my kid. I'm in it for all the kids. And I think that's what's important.
do you think that your background, if I remember, is Brazilian and Italian?
Yeah,
Did I get that right?
Brazilian, Portuguese, Italian.
Okay. Do you think that background is a benefit running, given the makeup of the town?
It is a benefit, absolutely.
I think last year and again this year, to my knowledge, you're the first Brazilian American candidate to be running for office in Milford.
Yes.
To my knowledge.
I don't know anyone else who has, and I hope I'm the first one to get elected.
I mean, we have Italian Americans, we have Portuguese Americans. I don't think anybody yet has run from
Brazilian
the
American.
Brazilian American background.
American Brazilian.
Okay.
American first.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't know. I still say I'm Irish American and German American.
I get it. Born and raised here, so that comes second.
Okay. So you're ABIP. American, Brazilian, Italian, and Portuguese.
Yeah,
Did I get the blend right?
it's a mix. It's a big mix.
But it's no different than Milford.
It's no different than Milford at all. I fit in perfectly.
You think that's an asset?
Yeah. No one sees me as an outsider, as they would others probably.
Can you speak
I
Brazilian
can speak,
Portuguese?
I can speak in the Brazilian Portuguese accent. I can speak in the Portuguese accent. I can't speak Italian, but I can understand Italian.
Okay.
So I have it all, I guess. And Spanish. I can speak and write. I can speak and understand Spanish.
So you do fairly well in the school system, talking to people.
Right. And next Monday, I'm going to go to the school system and speak to a few classes of kids that Janessa Grant asked me to come in to speak for. She works up at the high school. I'm probably going to, she told me I'm going to speak with about 200 to 300 kids. So
Is it a language class, or is it?
it's not a language,
another
it's
class,
more
or-
of a, you guys, it's more like, here's what I've done in life.
And
You
can-
guys can do it too. Nothing can stop you.
Well, that brings me to a point. You think you'd be a great role model being on the school committee and having come out of the school system with your background and where you are now in life?
Yeah, I think I can show these kids who don't believe themselves just because they just were dealt a bad hand, and I want to show them that you can. And I would sit down with every single kid one-on-one every day if I needed to if that's what I need to do to change their minds about themselves, build up their confidence.
Yeah, well, I know we've sat down from time to time when you started running last year, and you certainly have poise and confidence at a young age. You really do, compared to some other people getting out of college. So I definitely think you have that going.
Thank you.
But the ability, I think, to be a role model of the kids is pretty good.
And I hope I can be. So it's just going to come down to April 2nd. I'm counting down the days. It's I love this time of year. I do. I love campaigning. Last year losing was a bummer, but I lost with grace, I'd say.
Well, I do hope that this year it's not, what was it, either raining or snowing or whatever.
Oh, it was raining
freezing.
all day.
It was freezing,
It was-
I remember.
It was a beautiful day until about 1 o'clock.
And then it got very cold and very wet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I remember I drive around the polling places
Mhm.
talking to people,
Right.
and I just remembered at a certain point it's like, hey, I get to go home, they don't.
I went polling place to polling place, and everywhere I went, it was just cold and rainy.
Okay. You feeling optimistic this year?
More optimistic than last year.
Think you're better well known?
Oh, I hope so. I've heard that I'm more well known. So after I lost last year, a lot of people have told me that they didn't vote for me, but the way I went to town hall, accepted defeat gracefully, wished the 3 winners best of luck. They said that was above my
Classy.
class. Yeah, that was above my age and maturity.
Well, the other thing, candidly, as I told you, most people, when they lose, they disappear and you never see them again. You're back at it again. And I will tell you that I was a selectman in the neighboring town where I live, and it took me 1, 2, 3 years in a row to get in. And I lost by, I'm going to say something like 80 votes the first year. The second year was like 34 votes. And the third year I won by 43 votes. And the reason why people told me I won is they said, you clearly wanted the job, you kept running.
Right. I don't want to run too much though. Let's say if it gets to 4 or 5, maybe that's when I should learn a lesson and just step back. But I don't think we're going to get there. I hope
Okay.
to get things settled this year and then show the town why I should be one of the 7 members on the school committee.
Well, that sounds good. So a couple of seconds left, last words to voters.
Please come out April 2nd and vote for me.
Okay. Tarik, thanks a lot for
Thanks for
coming
having
by,
me, Kevin.
and good luck on April 2nd.
Thank you.